Thank you for joining LadyLawPublishing.com and Mike and Joe Consulting.com podcast. Today we have a very special guest, my cousin Frank Borelli, who is home for his high school reunion, and we won't date him by saying which one it is. So, welcome home, Frank. Nice to see you finally.
It's great to be
Uh,
here, buddy.
he came up from Florida and he left the back door open, so we're having 90-degree weather. So I'm waiting for him to go home and we can get back to some regular weather. So Frank and I today are just going to reminisce about growing up Italian in Endicott, New York. And for those of you who are not familiar with upstate New York, the Finger Lake region, Endicott, New York was the home, the birthplace of IBM, International Business Machines. And it also how and IBM in its heyday had more than 60,000 employees. Also, there was Endicott Johnson Shoe Company, which was one of the largest shoe companies in the United States, made all the boots for World War II, every single boot that every single soldier wore, and was where the good, honest, hardworking, tax-paying Italians in our neighborhoods went to work. Frank's parents, our aunts and uncles, everybody worked at EJ's. A couple of them snuck over to IBM, but there were very few. And Frank's mom, my aunt, was the eldest of seven kids. My father was the youngest of seven kids. Now, Frank's parents and all our aunts and uncles and all of our cousins grew up what
Within 6 blocks of each
within
other.
6 blocks of each other.
Yep.
My father was the only one that went to the other side of the world, 15 miles away,
All the way to
and
Binghamton.
all the way to Binghamton, New York. And but I'm gonna reminisce with Frank because I spent all my holidays, weekends, and summer vacations practically living at Frank's house. So my aunt was sort of like my surrogate mother. So Frank, welcome to New York again. Nice to see you.
Well, it's good to visit again.
Yeah.
This reunion has really opened eyes. It's been a couple years since we graduated high school, and it's good to see the faces. We had a little get together with a small group yesterday. We have another get together tonight, and then our reunion on Saturday. And I remember our 10th reunion, it was very official, ties, jackets, the whole 9 yards. And then when we went to the 20th, which they asked me to be in charge of it, which I said, sure. But I had a ton of good people around me. But anyway, we're very casual now, as you can see. Tank top. Yes, this is Florida. But no, life is good, Mike. Again, we grew up in a great town. Back when I was a kid, Endicott, you could not ask for a better place to
Right.
grow up.
And everybody knew everybody. Everybody worked with people. Everybody had a garden.
Yep.
Your dad had a fantastic garden. Our neighbor, your neighbor, in between your house and Aunt Mill and Grandpa's house, had a fantastic garden. And everybody, we call it the north side of Endicott, the knob. And everybody shared. If one guy grew great lettuce and the other guy grew great potatoes, they shared.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole neighborhood shared.
Nothing went to waste.
Nothing went to waste, and nothing came out of a can
No,
or a bottle.
no.
Every house had two kitchens.
Yep.
The cellar kitchen for the mass production,
Yep.
and then the upstairs kitchen for company
regular
and dinner
meals,
and
yeah.
regular meals.
Yeah.
So, and then you committed the mortal sin today, coming to my house. You rang the doorbell.
Yes.
And when we were growing up, wherever you went, if you rang the doorbell, you got slapped. You just walk in, yell,
Yell,
you
who
know,
it is, you know?
hello, hey, it's Frank, it's Mike.
Yep.
And we were talking about that the other day. So Grandpa had seven kids, so EJ's built him the bigger model house. And him and Aunt Mel lived there. Then Aunt Angie moved in upstairs.
Yep.
And then there was one house between his house and your house.
Yep. And I remember the good old days when we were at 319, Aunt Mill was at 315, and rather than call each other on the phone, they would just step out of their back entrance of the houses where you could see each other, and they say, "Hey, Mill, what's going on? Oh, Josephine, everything's okay."
Right.
Rather than talking on the phone. And the person in the middle, I used to always feel sorry for, but that was Lena, and she would laugh the whole time too. So
Yeah.
it was great having the neighbors you had
Yeah.
back then.
And then Maria moved in,
Yep.
and we always used their backyard. If I went from his house to my grandfather's house, we walked through the backyard of the house in between.
Yep.
And I remember one day when Maria now lived there, I went down the sidewalk, and her father came out the front door and he said, "Hey, what's the matter with you? My backyard's not good enough?" And I said, "Well, I just happened to park out front." You go through the backyard. And that's how they would. They made wine.
Yep.
They raised each other's kids. There was, nobody ever needed a babysitter.
Now, one of the biggest influences as a kid growing up were our neighbors across the street. They were older than my parents. And during the summertime, we were home, the parents were working, and they would end up, hoping that we did the right things. But we were, back then, there was no organized baseball or organized soccer or organized this. It was kids playing in the street. And across the street from us was Sam and Fanny Randizzi. And Sam was an Xboxer, little guy,
Little guy.
nicest guy in the world. And Fanny, oh my God, I mean, stuff would come out of her mouth, and my mother would just like cringe. But we'd be out there, and if we hit her house with one of the balls or something, oh, she'd come out there, start screaming at us, "I'm gonna tell your mother,"
And she'd call you every name in the book.
Oh yes,
She would make truck drivers blush.
yes, she would.
And I loved her.
Oh yes, she was like a second mom.
She used to call me the nastiest names, and I would go on the porch and sit on her lap or sit next to her.
Yeah.
And my mother would say, "Get over here. Why do you go?" And I said, "Man, she's so nice."
Yes.
And she was using the most foul language.
And then when we had an opportunity to sit with her and her husband Sam, I mean, this guy was a really good boxer.
Yeah.
Little guy.
Yeah.
But yet just a gentleman. I mean, just a joy. And that was what the neighborhood was. Everybody was like that.
Yeah.
Everybody looked out for each other. The kids all played with each other. It was a good life.
It was. And we didn't get in trouble, even 10 miles away, because everybody knew our parents.
Right. Oh yeah.
There were no cell phones. There were no cameras. No, I thought my father was psychic.
Yeah.
I said, "How did you know?" And somebody knew my father and said, "Your son was getting a little out of hand."
Oh,
That
yeah.
was nothing went unnoticed.
Yep.
And there was a lot of respect.
Yes.
When the street lights went on, you were in front of your home.
Right.
When the bell was ringing on the back porch, you were at the dinner table.
Right.
And everybody was at the dinner table.
Oh,
There were no excuses.
No.
And
Everybody ate at once. There was nothing where, you ate now and then 15 minutes later somebody else ate. It was a thing where, especially summertime, again, we would be out and about. Northside Park was right down the street, and we'd be down there all day long.
Yeah.
But we didn't have $10 in our pocket to buy soda and candy and whatever. And we'd be lucky if we had a dime or a quarter. And at 4:30, you were starving.
Yeah.
So you knew, hey, 4:30, I'm going home, and food will be ready. Mom and Dad will be home, and you sit down, have dinner, and like you said, then after that, the friends would all get out in the street again, playing until dark. Life was good. Life was very good.
It was. And nobody ever had to worry about visiting at dinner time, because I don't care if there were two older people or a family, there was always enough food at dinner for 15 people.
Oh yeah.
There was always, and you never said no. Even if you just ate and you were stuffed, if you didn't accept food from an Italian, that's it.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna get the money. And then
Sundays was a real, because Sundays we ate around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, the kids after Sunday dinner, all the kids would get together. We play street football, we play street baseball, whatever season it happened to be. And I'll never forget. After we got done playing, we were all starving again.
Right.
We've been running around for 3, 4 hours. And my mom had so much stuff, we'd all go in the house and eat, quote unquote, 3, 4 hour leftovers. And it was like a feast.
Well, but then again, at 10:30 at night, your mom was making fried bologna sandwiches.
Yes. Yep.
For
Oh, yeah.
everybody.
Yep.
You knew what time it was by the smell coming out of the house. And yeah, do you remember the time? I don't even know if you remember this. We were playing baseball in the street, and this clump came out of the sky, and somebody hit 2 bats that were entangled together.
Oh, I think I do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It, it wasn't the ball. It was what?
Yes. For some reason, they, God knows what they were doing, but yeah, they came out of the sky, and it was like it was there for a ball, and somebody swung the bat. And yes, I do remember that.
Two
Yep.
bats.
Yep.
And but then there was the time you almost killed me. We were playing baseball, and I was catching, and you hit me in the chest so hard with the bat. It took 4 of you to carry me up the road, and I remember your mother going, "Are you okay?" And I went, "Yeah."
Well, that was in the good old days when you would play, and if you were playing catcher, you didn't have a mask on.
No.
You didn't have any stuff. You were back there with your glove, and you were lucky you didn't get killed with a bat swinging and hitting your head.
In football,
Yeah.
there were no helmets, there were no
Yeah.
pads.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just and we were rough.
Oh yeah.
We were rough. I remember later, growing older, today they have street games and everybody's got a gun and a knife. We used to have rival football games.
Yeah.
Where we get a little rougher than we should have with
Oh,
the
yeah.
competing team.
Oh yeah.
But
Like
that was our rumble.
right. Vermont Avenue would play Murphy Avenue, and because there were kids on
Yeah.
all the streets,
Yeah.
because everybody was in the same ballpark. And the greatest thing, Mike, was you never felt like you were poor.
Right.
Because everybody was in the same ballpark, category and everything, and it was just amazing how I remember one of the biggest things, and I did not realize this till Mom and Dad were later in life, where Mom would say on a Thursday, "Oh, tomorrow we're gonna have pancakes and eggs for dinner."
Mhm.
It's like, as a kid, I was like, "Wow, yeah, that's great." Then later, and later in life, when you're sitting down and actually talking to your mom and dad about things and laughing
Mhm.
and stuff, she would say, "Do you know why we had pancakes and eggs for dinner?" I said, "Because we liked it." They said, "No, that's all we had."
Yeah.
But again, they never approached it as, "Oh, guys, we got to have pancakes and eggs for dinner."
Yeah.
It was like,
It
"Hey,
was a treat. It
yeah,
was a treat.
exactly."
My father-in-law used to watch TV, and one of the delicacies was polenta.
Oh, yeah.
The meal that you put on a dish, and everybody sat around with a spoon and ate out of the central dish. And that's an extravagant meal today. My father-in-law used to say, "We had to eat that crap because we couldn't afford food."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I hear you. They never made you feel like you didn't have stuff.
No.
I remember Mom and Dad would say when they got married, they didn't have a car, they didn't have a TV. And again, it was probably before the time where a majority of Americans had cars and TVs. But then as things got better, all of a sudden you got a car. All of a sudden you got a TV, and in comparison to today's TVs that are like movie screens,
Oh yeah,
I mean, you started off with a 12-inch TV,
black and white.
yeah, and you thought you were living the high life. And as being the youngest in the family, I was the channel changer because we had 3 channels.
You were the remote.
Yes, I was the remote, and I was also the antenna keeper.
I remember that.
Oh yeah, because the station wasn't coming in clear.
Great.
So
Hold the antenna.
Yeah.
Okay, don't move. Don't
yeah,
move. Stay
exactly.
right there.
Yeah.
My father was one of the first in our neighborhood to have a TV. And like you said, it was 12, 14 inches.
Yeah.
And I remember I said, "Dad, why are you putting it facing the window?" He said, because we're gonna go outside with the neighbors. All the neighbors used to come and watch our TV
Yeah.
because they didn't have TV.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And they set up lawn chairs and they'd sit on the front porch. And then we would go on the front porch to watch our own TV.
Exactly. Yep. No, life was good and simple. You know, everybody looked after each other. There was respect. There was people understanding how grateful they were for what they had. And like I said, it was just, we were very fortunate. Our class, for our reunion, we got close to 200 people coming. And the thing is the kids that were outside of our class that knew us said, "You guys were really lucky." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You guys actually liked each other, you know?" And like I said yesterday, we had a small get together with the group that organized everything. And it is. I mean, you don't see these people for sometimes 10 years at a time, but when you get together, it's like you saw them yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and that is really special.
I just reunited with some guys I went to high school with 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we have a monthly lunch.
Nice.
And the very first lunch I went to, other than not recognizing a couple guys because they no longer had hair.
I'm lucky. I
Or,
still
yeah,
got.
yeah.
I
Let
took
me-
after mom.
That was the big thing. Oh, I remember you. You had hair and a beard.
Yeah.
I remember you when you had hair.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. We developed friendships that were sincere.
Yeah.
They weren't a like in to 1,050 friends that you never met.
Right.
We knew each other almost intimately because everybody ate at somebody else's house
Yeah.
at one time or another. Everybody stayed overnight at somebody's house or went on vacation with them.
Right.
If they were lucky enough to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And sometimes our extravagant vacation was Whitney Point, 35 miles away.
Yeah.
But it was a lake and it looked like another world.
Right. I remember, again, being a young kid, most of our vacations were state park.
Yeah.
Where there was the lake, places for picnics, and there were day trips because it was very close. And then one year, my dad and his brother, Uncle Frank, their family and our family went to the Jersey Shore. And this was, I bet you I was maybe 9 years old at the time. And we went down there, and there were little houses right on the water. You know, I mean, that's how long ago.
Brigantine Beach.
Yes, that's
This
how
is-
long ago.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I'd never been to the ocean, and I love swimming, so that wasn't the issue. But I would end up the first time I dove into the ocean, I came up and I said, "What the heck?" I didn't realize it was going to taste like salt, you know. And again, that's how really little you had, but you never realized how little you had.
Right.
Yeah. But again, then I had an opportunity in 1983 to go to Italy with my parents, where my dad's hometown was.
And your dad went quite often.
Yeah, once dad got settled, I bet you he probably got for probably the good first 10, 15 years of coming here from Italy when he was 27, did not go back. But then once they got settled, he would go back for at least a month, like every 2 or 3 years. And this one year he was gone, and I had an opportunity to go. So I said, "Yeah, I'll tell you, Mike, I have more cousins over there than I have here in America." And they were great. They were absolutely great. It was a little town, Sant'Agata, on a 15-kilometer road from the west coast where the water was in the Mediterranean there. And it was one road that went up to the thing, and it reminded me of the European car commercials where there's no straight.
Right.
Everything is like this. And I remember at the time, every day I went to the beach because I was like, 20 something, I don't know, 23 years old. And we'd go to the beach every day. And one day, no one from the family was going down that way. So my father says, "Where are you going?" I said, "We're going to the beach." He goes, "How are you going?" I said, "I'm going to hitchhike." He goes, "No, you can't do that." And I said, "Dad, there's one road. Anybody that's coming on this road from the town knows you,
Yeah.
which in turn knows the Americans. Oh, the Americans are here. And so we put out our thumb. Ended up this first couple picked us up. I didn't really speak Italian. They spoke no English. 15 kilometers later, we completed one sentence, you know, but it was great. And then on the way back up, no one was down there, so we started walking. And then again, somebody came because again they were going to the town.
And they
They
offered a
saw
ride.
us, and yeah, they offered us a ride. So it was beautiful. It was just amazing to meet family and relatives that were there. Oh my God, there was one guy that was absolutely great. He actually has passed away from cancer many years ago now, but he was my age. And I'll never forget one day he said, come on, he could speak a little bit of English. He said, come on, we're going to go on the rowboat out to that island. And God, you know, you could see it.
But
But
it
you
was
think,
a, it was a ways away.
yeah, it's not too far away. So here, me, my cousin Joe Borelli, probably a handful of people in this wooden rowboat, and we're rowing out there. And we get out there, we have a great time. And then on the way back, about halfway back, my younger cousin Joe Borelli was getting a little touchy. So we said, "Oh yeah, really?" We threw him overboard, and we started rowing away. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Swim back, you know." But oh, we had a riot. Again, life was good. Got to see stuff. Not even so much. We visited all different things in Italy, but the best thing was being in the hometown for like a good 3 weeks. And it was during August, during the feast season. One of my cousins that was my age was getting married. And I'll tell you, that wedding reminded me of watching The Godfather. I think it was two when Michael
Yeah.
went over to Italy.
The big.
Oh yeah, it was like the exact same thing, and it was just wonderful.
Now back
Absolutely
then,
wonderful.
the entire country shut down in August.
Yes,
I wonder if they still do that.
I think they do,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the younger kids, there was not a lot of stuff going on in southern Italy.
Right.
It was in Calabria, so they would get an education and then they'd be working up in Rome. But then in August, everybody came back to their hometown.
Right. And everything was a street party.
Yes,
So, and through the month of August, the whole country was shut down except for maybe some transportation.
Yeah.
But then all the neighborhoods and all the communities, just everything was outside and everything was community, and they just ate together.
Yeah.
And reminisce together and drink wine together.
we were very fortunate, and again, you got to really live the true Italian lifestyle. Because again, I remember when my dad came to America, and he met my mom. They had my brother, and then 2.5 years later, me. My dad wanted us to be Americans.
Yeah.
And the only time him and my mom spoke Italian was when they were conversing. They never conversed with us in Italian because they wanted us to be Americans.
And they didn't want you to know what they were saying
Yeah,
about you too.
That's true too.
They had-
But you know, it was sad because in latter years of life, when I used to sit down with Dad, he really regretted that.
Yeah.
Because he said, "Man, he said I should have given you more of the heritage, and by not teaching you the language, he felt bad." But again, they did the best they knew.
Now, see, my wife speaks fluent
Yeah.
Italian.
Oh yeah.
So, her godmother, I know when she's talking to her godmother because I hear her on the phone. It's all Italian because
Right.
the godmother doesn't speak any
Speak
English. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I know what that is, so I also know my wife is talking about me when she's talking to a friend and she's looking at me, but they're talking Italian.
Yeah. I hear you.
And Maria is over there now, the woman who grew up in between you guys with her granddaughter. She's been there 10 days.
Yes.
And they have been all over
Yeah.
Italy. They're taking that 200-mile-an-hour train.
Yeah.
And today they're in Rome. Tomorrow they're in Florence. And then the next day they're in a different place.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. And that is the gift to her granddaughter.
Yeah.
We talked to a travel agent who does specialty trips.
Yeah.
And he says, don't buy your grandkid a car. It's going to rust and be gone in 3 years. Take them on a trip. Take them on a cruise. Take them to another country. That's a gift that they'll never forget long after you're gone.
Especially a trip to where they came from.
Right.
Maybe Italy, maybe Ireland, maybe England, whatever.
Yeah.
A trip to where they grew up and where their heritage was,
Right.
and to see, what your heritage is all about. Because here in America, it's totally different.
I always used to joke that your father was going to get picked up for smuggling peanut butter
Yeah.
over there because they didn't have peanut
Right.
butter.
And he
your
would have,
father-
oh yeah, he'd probably have 5 or 6 at least big jars of peanut butter in his suitcase.
And they say, we're going to have to go to Interpol and get Uncle Pete. He's going to get picked up for smuggling peanut butter.
No, I hear you. But again, that was the thing. And then we get there. I remember the first meal we had in my dad's hometown in the village there. There were like 20 people because of the wedding. There were a lot of people from the U.S. and then obviously a lot of people, relatives there. And there were 20 plus people eating. And the first day, they give you a little like orange juice glass to drink your wine. And they have homemade wine, big glass gallons on the table, like 4 or 5. And they'd fill your thing up. And it was so small, it went down like nothing. And I'll never forget the next morning I got up, I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So at the day of the wedding, they had that down at the coast, and they had oh God, BMW or some exotic car for the bride and groom to go down. Had the party down there. As a result, I did not drink because of the headache I got from the first day, and everybody else was drunk. So they asked me to drive this car home, a 5-speed Mercedes or whatever. And we're on that little winding road going up the side of the mountain. And all of a sudden, I come around a corner, and there's a family of pigs in front of me. I mean, that's what it was. It was just, oh yeah. And again, those are memories that I'll never forget. Never ever forget.
That's fantastic. And that's, all the years. And we've been kind of close, even though you're in Florida and I'm in New York, you visit when you come home.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gotten down there lately, but we've talked about a lot of things, but we've never really gotten into this conversation
yeah.
before. All the years that we've been communicating,
Yeah.
we've never really gotten into our heritage and family and those kinds of things. So that's this is exciting for me today.
Oh yeah, it's very. The thing is, I've learned that it's very important. I remember when Dad wasn't feeling too good, we started going through pictures, and basically a lot of the Italian pictures, we would put names on the back.
Right.
And then we were going to do it more with Mom once Dad passed away, and we really didn't. So when Mom passed away, again, they were both EJ workers, and back then, when you took pictures, you had tons of pictures.
Right.
And they were all in shoeboxes because they were 3Js.
Right. Right.
So when we were cleaning out the house when we sold it, I went through all these pictures, and I said, "Oh God, I can't throw these away." And then my wife says, "Well, who is this?" I said, "I don't know." And she
Because
goes,
there's no names on the back.
"Right." It was
Yeah.
more of the Italians
Yeah.
from Italy. And she goes, "Well, why are you going to keep pictures of people you don't know?" And unfortunately, we got rid of a lot of those.
Yeah.
But the pictures that we did save, now just coming back up this year for the grandkids, I brought them books. They're really into sports and different things. Very young, 7, 10, 4. So I got them appropriate books. But what I did for their bookmarker, my grandson Derek, I had a picture of a wrestling picture of me in 1973. Now the back I wrote Grandpa Frank, 1973, New York State Championship second. And again, so something he will be able to remember.
Right.
And then also I had a picture of my self as a kid, my brother, who Uncle Joe would be. And again, we wrote all this on the back. And then my dad would be great grandpa Pete.
Right.
And then his father, so
Right.
and it was one, and this will give them an opportunity. And I hope to God when I leave this earth that somebody wants them.
Right.
wants these
right.
pictures.
And somebody put your name on the back of a photo,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So
exactly. Oh yeah, I
they
know this
were-
one guy.
they
Yeah,
were a viewer.
yeah.
All right, Frank, this was too much fun. We got to do 3 more of these.
This was great.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up because we don't want to put our listeners to sleep.
Yep.
And when we put this on the website, I'm going to put a link to Which Way EJ, which is a song written by a friend of ours about what the people used to say. They used to get off the boat at Ellis Island and say, "Which way, EJ?" Because they knew that's where they were going to find employment, housing, get sponsored by other families that had acclimated here, that invited people from the old country to come in, get their citizenship, and then bring more and more people over legally.
Yep.
And the one funny story I'll tell is we were watching the fireworks the other night for the 4th.
Yep.
And my wife was telling one of our guests when her grandparents came over, they came into Ellis Island on the 4th.
Wow.
And everybody on the ship ran to the bottom of the ship because when the fireworks went off, they thought they were coming into a war.
Oh,
They had never seen.
yeah, because that's where they came from. The instability
Yeah.
of where they were coming from in America was going to be this
Yeah.
dream. You're thinking, oh my God, they're bombing us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I
And
hear
if you look behind you, I got grandma and grandpa, your mom and dad,
Yep.
and my grandparents on my mother's side.
Yep.
And
And that's very important.
and I look at every once in a while in between doing whatever I do for a living,
Yep.
I just kind of sit back and just look and remember. And,
Yes.
and they were all good memories.
Yeah.
And the only time that I ever questioned your parents or your father or anybody else was at your sporting events. My God, they turned into animals. They were like, I always said it's a good thing I didn't wrestle because Uncle Pete would disown me if I ever pinned you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be invited
Oh,
to
yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And
And
they were
they
definitely the #1 fan
Oh, yeah.
because my older brother Joe really was smaller. At 5, me and Joe were the same size, and he was 2.5 years older than me. So I was always bigger than him. And then when I got involved with the wrestling, mom and dad were #1 fans.
Yeah, I
Number
remember
one
that.
fans.
I remember it. And I remember your father just giving the evil eye at anybody who had anything to say. And,
And Uncle Frank.
and Uncle Frank. Yeah.
Uncle Frank,
Yeah.
very, very vocal. Very vocal.
I wrestled for a short time in Binghamton, and I wrestled against Freddie Felton,
Oh, okay.
and I pinned him. And I remember getting up and apologizing to him. I said, Frank, Freddie, you must have slipped on a sweater. I'm so, I didn't do that intentionally.
Right.
Don't kill me after the match.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe played football.
No,
He didn't play.
No, in high school, Joe's activity level was pretty much intramural stuff.
Okay.
But then when he got in college, he didn't play any organized stuff, but it was all intramural there. And to this day, Joe is a pickleball.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's an internationally recognized
Pickleball
pickleballer.
guy. Right. And he's 2.5 years older than me. And he's doing it vigorously.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a result of all the stuff from wrestling, playing football, playing hockey, skiing, and all the stuff that I did as a kid, I'm lucky to go up and down stairs right now.
Well, you're my example to all the young people I talk to. Like, just because you have a back and just because you have knees and just because you're young, don't overdo it. Because I got a cousin Frank that's got more scar tissue than Evel Knievel and more aches and pains. And even me, I wasn't that athletically involved, but we played a lot of street football. We worked hard, and I'm too young to be as disabled as I am.
No, I hear you.
And
I got to tell this one
Yeah.
last thing.
go ahead.
I remember when it would come up in conversation. You're Mike Bonventri's cousin, aren't you? And I said, yeah. I said, he's one of the few people I could stand behind, and you wouldn't see me. And they said, no way.
Yeah.
And but again,
Yeah, you were always my little a couple years older, but always my little cousin.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And I remember one time, Frank, there was some guy that had a beef with you. I was in a bar in Binghamton, and I got hit so hard I saw stars. And I was coming up off the ground, and the guy says, "You're not Frank Burley." And I said, "No, I'm his cousin. And I'm meaner than Frank. He's stronger, but I'm meaner." And you know what? He signed over the title to his 69 GTO to apologize to
Oh,
me.
wow.
And that's how I got my GTO, by taking a sucker punch for you.
There we go.
So I'm so glad you made the right guy mad.
Right, I'm glad I was able to do that for
And
you,
it wasn't a legitimate thing. It was like, you must have beat him in some sport,
probably.
you know? And he just saw you and thought, "Oh,
I'm gonna get back at
I'm
him.
gonna get back at him."
Yeah.
So, and that's when I had hair, folks. We somewhat resembled each other, because we both got the Bonaventure nose.
There we go.
Yeah. So Frank,
It was a pleasure.
always a pleasure to see
Yes.
you.
A pleasure
Now-
to see you, just normally, but to be able to do this with you, Mike, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, because I'm gonna put our names on this.
Okay,
So if they still have YouTube and,
yeah,
who knows what they're gonna have, we might be hologram.
right.
We might be holograms.
That would be something,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll have our names on it so people remember who those two old holograms are.
We'll go down in history.
There you go. So folks, thank you very much for enduring our reminiscing and trip down memory lane. It's not often we get to do this. Usually it's all business. So thanks again for joining LadyLawPublishing.com and Mike and Joe Consulting.com. And if anybody wants to be consulted about family, call Frank and Mike.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll help you out.
yeah, we'll be the historians.
Yeah.
All right, folks. You have a wonderful life, everybody, and enjoy your families while they're there. Now, see, my